Cambridge English ELT consultant. And before we go to the presentation itself, let's have a look at this example. Look at the teacher, and this is the words of the teacher, and here is a student. Can you imagine such a situation? Sure. Okay. Sometimes. Well, that would be in a super perfect world where presentation, practice, production rule works in some very interesting way. But the reality is different, and this could be in the perfect world, but this is what happens in the real world. These are our students, and imagine explaining superlatives, comparatives in such a way as the teacher did, and all of a sudden each student can use the language according to the rule. But yeah, this is the reality, and let's think, what is the teacher's mistake and what is missing in this chain of actions? Examples. Perfect. What else? Examples. First presentation, schemata, okay. Context, perfect. Hello. Explanation is there, but there is nothing much to explain, right? Because there is no context. Ah, great, more people joining. Come in, come in. We're already working and looking at what is the teacher's mistake. All right, you're right. There is no context. There is, oh, finally, no practice. There is no practice at all. And that is the most important thing we need to do with the students, especially the young learners, to provide as much practice as possible. So before we proceed to the work, please choose the statement that is the most appropriate for you. To do that, you need to go to slido.com and insert this code. You will join and you will be able to vote for one of the statements here, or you can just scan the code. All right. Let's wait a little bit. I will disappear for a while. Okay, I'm back here. And what do we see? Most people first teach grammar by explaining it to students, then giving them activities to practice it, and then encourage them to use it freely in the task. Okay. Then the second place goes to letting students learn grammar from the context at once. And I guess that's only one person who practiced grammar by translating sentences. Anybody to ask students to complete tasks and teach grammar when they need it or at the end of the lesson? Nobody. Okay. Okay. So what we see, we have the first one, the first statement as a winner, which is quite expected. But at this session, we will look at some other options. We will look at the mastering the ability of choice, which means that the second statement you still have in your Slido, the second statement might also work. And actually, each of these four statements, they might work at the lesson, together with the last one, which didn't get any votes. And at the very early stages, I wouldn't work with a lot of translations, because students don't, the young learners don't have this meta-linguistic knowledge yet to translate, to work with abstract concepts. So the more context, the better it is. And yeah, at this session, we will be mastering the ability of choice, see what it is, and focus on practice and activities. There will be a lot of takeaway activities. Before we start with the activities, let's have a look at this first statement that all of you had, where you teach grammar and then let students work with it in the tasks. This is the typical presentation practice production model. But does this model really work with young learners? A dilemma at of this model is that it often leads to pseudo accuracy, where students are able to say the rhymes, to sing songs and chants, act out dialogues, perform role plays and sketches, retell stories, but this all is reproduction rather than production, which we aim at in this model. And unfortunately, when we start with presentation practice, we often have reproduction at the early stage of teaching. And real communication requires more choice, conceptualization. We need to teach students how to conceptualize some chunks of the language, how to acquire them. Self-monitoring, this is something else we need to teach, because self-monitoring will later lead to this meta-linguistic knowledge. Using chunks of language, talk management, and fluency. Fluency and accuracy, these are very different things. At pre-A1, A1 levels, accuracy is not a realistic teaching objective. If we teach students how to speak accurately, we don't teach them to communicate and to feel free in their expression. And this is something we really need to do, to constantly work on error correction in a very soft, mild way. But this is not what we aim at. I mean, accuracy. We need to aim at basic communication skills. And Herbert Buchter, the author of Superminds, Think series, Empower series, and a lot of other Cambridge University Press and Assessment courses, who is also a professor of neuropedagogy, he has this general model, which is discovery, consolidation, and use instead of presentation, practice, production. Try to feel the difference. Discovery instead of presentation. What does it mean? That we give students some context and allow them to discover something, to make a choice. Like what's going on here with the language? Do you see the pattern? Can you feel the pattern in the language? Then consolidation, which is not practicing something according to the example, but finding such patterns with some missing words, like filling in the gaps and so on. And this is not about the completely different tasks. It's just changing the approach to how we approach teaching of grammar, and use instead of production, right? Students cannot produce the language they don't know anything about. They can use something they've learned, and we need to facilitate this process of them using the language. Still, the young learners model is a little bit different according to Herbert Buchter. What he says: imitating, practicing control, autonomy. Imitating is something that we call production in the presentation, practice, production stage. Is imitating. This is how we all learned our first native language. We were just imitating it, and then we managed to conceptualize, to acquire, to appropriate this language. Then practicing control, self-monitoring, and so on. And then autonomy in using this language that we've been imitating. Now, imitation can be supported through the multi-sensory activation and helps with pronunciation, intonation, word and sentence stress, vocabulary, chunks of the language, structures, discourse features, and gambits. And practicing control is something different from controlled practice, which is a stage of practice in the presentation, practice, production model. But there we have controlled practice and freer practice. Here, practicing control is a little bit different, and it's directed on appropriation of the language, which has connotations of taking over the ownership of this language. Appropriation of target language means making the language your own, right? So what we need here is not to ask students to learn something by heart, but to imitate and then to give them such kind of tasks that will be really lifelike, in which they can really use this language, and that's the only choice they have, to use this particular target language to complete this task, which should be interesting, not about repetition, not too challenging, not too easy, so they stay motivated but challenged at the same time. Now, practicing control means adding challenges. If we are talking about error correction in practicing control, this is shadowing and echoing. For example, if I'm a young learner who makes a mistake, for example, says, my name Tanya, and you as a teacher would tell me, your name is Tanya, and the students would say, oh, my name is Tanya, yes. So yeah, this is echoing. Then adding choice, and we will have a look at some exercises how it can be done. Grammar games. For example, look at this way of presenting grammar, but I would call it discovering grammar. So fill in the missing line. Type it in the chat. We have a situation here, and I'm asking you to fill in the the line. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Evgenia. Thank you, Olha. All right. Everybody has, there is a fly. This is actually the structure we are learning, but someone in the chat typed, I have a fly in my soup. Is that a mistake? No, it's not a mistake, right? I have a fly in my soup. That can happen. We can say it. We have a lot of other options in the language. And we might ask students, if they already know this structure, it's okay to use it, right? And students can just shout out or have their options. Like, a fly is in my soup. My soup has a fly. There is a fly in my soup. In my soup is a fly. Fly in my soup. Or so on, yeah? Fly in the soup. Just a fly or something like that. So we give them a choice before we ask them to before we present the new structure. We give them a choice to use different ways of saying it, and most probably there will be a lot of ways which are incorrect, but we gave them the choice and they already start conceptualizing that, okay, we need to say it. This is not how they think, of course, but something is somewhere. They already have this concept. Something is somewhere. And since they built this little concept in their head, subconsciously, of course, there is a possibility that they will put this structure, on this concept, and it will be easier. And yeah, so we suggest them that there is this structure to use in such situations, and we ask them to work with it. Like, look, what's going on? There is a fly in a plate in the soup. Okay, and what's going on now? There are 2 flies in my soup. And what's going on? And we ask students to fill in the gaps. And they say, okay, so there are 2 flies, so there are 3 flies, and there are 4 flies. So they can track this difference. So there is 1 fly, and there are many flies in my soup. And this is how they watch, they notice how language works in the context at once. And we ask them to learn these particular structures for these particular situations. We don't explain that, okay, this is singular, this is plural, we use this and this. This is something we can explain to someone who already has the understanding of language, of native language, in a very proper philological way. And students in the 1st or the 2nd grade, they do not. So we just teach them how to think logically, how to analyze the language, how to do the self-monitoring and the monitoring of the situation that requires some linguistic description. And yeah, so we have we might ask them to fill in more gaps, and then we have the complete gap, just blanks, and show them this situation. And afterwards we can ask them to make their own situation, which is kind of the same, but use the new words. Elicit other complaints of a customer. Well, this is not how you give the task, but for you, what else can happen here? And students, especially in the first, second, third grade, they can go as creative as they want. Like, yes, sir, it is an elephant soup. Yeah, and they can work with that in pairs. And another student will say, okay, there is an elephant in my soup. And then, yes, sir, it's a computer soup. Yeah, there is a computer in my soup, and things like that. So while students are creating their own situation using the same patterns, you control the situation, you give them hints, you encourage them to challenge each other. For example, you can somehow make some objects appear, like pencil. Yeah, there are 3 pencils in my soup. Yeah, adding challenge here would also help to learn this structure. And this is not coming out of nowhere. Of course, before we go to the rule, we might sing a song. In this song, we have a lot of repetition of the same structure, and only then we can move to this structure. It's also given in the context. For example, here it's given through monsters with their bedrooms, and through listening task. And there is quite a complicated context if you think about it. But for students, it will be much easier to understand. So something is situated somewhere. So we use the construction there is, there are. And yeah, students first match monsters to their bedrooms. Monsters describe, like, there is a rocket in my bedroom, there are balloons in my bedroom, there are 2 frogs in my bedroom, there are 3 frogs in my bedroom. And it's kind of a game for a student because they hear 3 frogs, blue monster, got it. Yeah. And then we pay the attention to there is and there are construction. Here it's done in a way of the video with a chant, where students learn the chunks of the language and also track how the pattern works with a lot of fish and 1 fish. And then students play the description game. In this picture, one student says, so in this picture, there are 4 mice. And what picture is it? In this picture, there are 4 mice. Picture 4. Picture 2. Picture 4 and picture 2. Perfect. And you see, it's even interesting for you to have a look, because it's a kind of a game, and students can play this game together in groups or in the open class as you build it. Now, you still model it, and they can proceed in pairs or in teams. With more context, here is what's going on. Students listen, look, and match. Is there a park? Yes, there is. So now it's a dialogue. Now there are questions and negatives and more chunks of the language with more explanation from Penny the Penguin, which has videos here. There is a video that explains how language works. And then there is a more complicated task, because the students have to ask a question. Is there a plane? And we look at the picture 1. Is there a plane in the park? There is. Then, is there a mouse? And so on. So students play with this activity, and this is how they use the language. This is how they appropriate this language. And even stronger appropriation later goes through the story with their favorite superheroes, super minds heroes. Yeah, you see here, there is no problem, new expressions and so on. And then they work with the same structure, but it becomes a little bit more complicated in terms of critical thinking, logic thinking, creative thinking, because you need to draw your house, ask and answer, or maybe not to show it to the partner, and ask questions. Is there a bathroom in your house? And you look at your picture and say yes. Or you can they can exchange these pictures and play more games, but really using this language. And the more games we create for using such a construction, the better would be appropriation of this language. Now, all examples are taken from Supermind's Ukrainian edition for the 2nd grade. And we will come back to this book a little bit later. But yeah, what is practicing control? Going from imitating to practicing control, as it was on that triangle. For practicing control, we need a lot of practice. And what I just showed you, it was a lot of practice, a lot of games, a lot of question, answer, with the same structure, singing and chanting with the same structure. So it's a lot of practice. Also, there is a workbook with a lot of practice, and a skills book with a lot of practice as well. Now, heads up and hands down activities. They should go from talking to each other, students should go from talking to each other, working in a team, in pairs, to writing something down on their own, or looking at the pictures on their own, or coloring something in their workbooks on their own, which should also be done during the lesson. Now we move to achievability of the tasks. For practicing control, we need to set the tasks in such a way that we know exactly that students will achieve at least something in this task, that they will succeed, right? They will succeed in most of it, maybe not in all of it, but at the same time, there will be a challenge. Then meaningful communicative situations. And this is something I showed you before with a game. You draw something, you hide it, so your question, so a question to you feels appropriate. Like, is there a table in your room? And you're like, yes, there is, right? You don't show it because that would be strange. And it's not real life. Then differentiation. We use very different kinds of tasks, from speaking to writing to listening and reading tasks. Now, autonomy, one more very important element of this grammar appropriation model, with imitating, practicing control, and the use. Interest in the content of a student's utterance, you should have, and students, of course. Then tolerance of errors. As a teacher, you need to be tolerant, especially pay the most attention to the errors that are in the target language, in the topic. Then discrete error correction, especially for the speaking tasks, goes to the end of the speaking task. Skills to facilitate negotiating meaning. As I showed you with the fly soup, we negotiate the meaning. There is one fly in my soup, there are 3 flies in my soup. Yeah, we negotiate it, that there are, this is for 1 and this is for 2 and more. Then patient support, of course. And I will show you a few activities that might be interesting for you. Just we'll check the time. Great. So try going further than the teacher's book instructions. Try to be creative. Try to channel this creativity into your lessons, because otherwise someone else will channel it, yeah. And it will be fun as long as you are having fun with the preparation for the lessons. Now, miming while controlled practice. Here is the task. You have one set of sentence cards and you put them face down. And then you have sentence lists, one worksheet for a student. And you ask students to mime sentence from the card, taking turns in front of the teams or in front of the classroom. And then students have to tick, there is this sentence, and they have to guess this sentence. How it's going on? One student is miming, others are asking, are you cycling? Are you running? Are you swimming? And the student says, no, I'm not, or yes, I am. If there is this construction, are you swimming? Yes, I am. Tick. If there is no this construction, just swimming doesn't count. And yeah, students get the scores according to the to how correctly they are, how accurately they are working, and how fast, how well is the collaboration and communication is in the team. You can also add like what is in the sentence, and in the sentence could be he or she is swimming. And yeah, keep the templates, these templates on the whiteboard at the first several rounds, and then hide them or wipe them down so students already speak it on their own. Another activity, you can have two sets of cards. One set of cards with activity, another with adjective, and students have to build a sentence. For example, flying a kite is fun, and activity would be flying a kite, adjective would be fun, and they have to build it all together. Now, another one, 3 sets of cards, more complicated: noun, which is a person, verb, which is an action, and object, if it's a transitive verb. That's for you as a teacher. Adverb. Now, using scissors, especially with the young learners, that's one of my favorite. Like, if you add scissors to your lessons, that to the preparation for your lessons, that might be really fun to cut out crosswords and to make competitions out of them, to stick the cutouts on students' backs. Like to cut out some picture and stick it on a bag and ask another student to describe it. For example, to practice what's this. So this is or this is not a, it's not a. Yeah, and it can be a guessing game with something stuck to the students' backs. You can stick something on the walls, different cutouts, cues the opposite walls with the crossword in the center, for example. Another activity with the scissors would be a snake, and this might really work well with spelling the words. If students need to write some word to learn how it's written, they write it in the snake, in the spiral, and then you can cut it out and hang it somewhere. It doesn't really help to like this cutout doesn't really help with the spelling, right? But it's quite a big emotional thing when you have this snake and then it's hanging there and bouncing a little bit. That might make this word really memorable for a student. Parts of the bodies. When you are working with the parts of the bodies, you can ask the students to draw their own foot, trace or their hand, and then cut it out and paint it and have some arts and crafts lesson. And inside of that there might be more words, for example colors. Yeah, they can color it with different crayons and then sign each color inside of this foot or arm. Paper chains, also for parts of the bodies that can be signed here, the head, arm, leg, and so on. Excuse me. And this could be a nice decoration for their learning place or for the wall. Spot the difference cards. If you cut them, students will have to ask each other questions. So you cut both cards and you give to students 2 different cards, and you ask and you model this situation, like is there are there books on the second shelf on the left? Or something like this. Is there a poster? Is there a rose on the table? Is there a girl? Has she got a bag? And so on. So they try to spot differences. You give students time limit, and then they put it all together and compare to spot more differences. But this is quite a challenge for them to really speak, to really use the language. Personalizing, personalizing. This is also from the Superminds Ukrainian edition, the 2nd grade. For the same topic, draw your house, ask and answer. We've seen this task, and this is a writing task to develop creativity. And house, you draw a house inside in your notebook, and this could be a house built by sentences, and this should be like a little text about the house of your dream. Yeah, windows can be drawn with the words windows, and so on. Line up activities. This is one of my favorites. This is to work with the have got, has got construction. Line up students in 2 lines facing each other. So this is student 1, student 2. They face each other. You give them a few seconds to look at each other everywhere, everyone in the line. They scan their peers, and then you ask students to turn backs and close their eyes, and then you touch a student on a shoulder and ask, for example, has Anya, who is standing in the different line, has Anya got I don't know, a red skirt, or what is the color of Ivan's eyes, and things like that. So this is to develop students' working memory, to develop their attention, and at the same to practice some construction, some structure that you want to practice at this moment, whether it's clothes and have got appearances and have got or some other ways for you to figure out. When you have this very simple, the first thing, like, yeah, what's this? And you're guessing, that's a crocodile. Yeah, but if we at once show the picture, what's this? It's like, again, it's strange. There's no challenge into it, and it makes it boring. So always find a way to add a challenge, so answering a question would really make sense in reality, not for the lesson, but for the reality. And yeah, Another one, passing the secret message. This is just a classroom management thing that you might want to use, and for you to think how you can really use it. I was using it with students of the 2nd and 3rd grade, where we had to make up a story all together, or to draw a picture all together and then unfold it, and then there is a picture that's drawn by the whole class. Or make up a story when you add a sentence by sentence, and then you read this nonsense and have fun. But this can be done with some particular structure, grammar structure. Yeah, to practice the same, there are activity structure. You can use realia, like identify an object and its owner. So we have different objects that students put on a table, and then someone picks one object. Whose apple this is? Or I think this is Ivan's apple. Or Ivan has got an apple. Depending on the structure, you set this rule, and students are trying to guess whose apple this is, whose pencil this is, and these are their belongings, and it's easier for them to really appropriate this language because it's personalized again. And one more thing, to organize some work in your classroom, this could be for picking a student to talk, but yeah, this is a paper fortune teller. This is how you make it, again with the scissors. You fold it, and then there might be some funny tasks on each, and you can use it for organizing lessons, or for some secret activities if you have time, or if students look really playful, you can have this secret activity that you choose from the fortune teller. And here we have these secret activities, like slowly count to 10, take a self-help, take 5 slow deep breaths, and yeah, students can really pick a number and pick a color, and you tell them this task, and then later, believe me, they will all have these fortune tellers with their own tasks, and they will talk to each other during the breaks. I had it for like 2 weeks after I showed it to them. And how do we do error correction? Error correction can be done in different ways, but if students keep repeating some mistakes, we use different things. Like, for example, there can be some sign, like there is an error, especially if a student is talking, and this is how we teach them self-monitoring. It can be some object that you show that there is an error. For example, always when I do this, there is an error. It can be fun for students because it's a little bit theatrical. We can have some specific facial expression which is not angry, but in some funny, humorous way, we can ask them to to pay attention to their speech and switch on self-monitoring. And this can be a flag of some way, facial expression. For past tenses, this is something we all had at schools. Like whenever we don't use the second form of the verb, right? Our teacher would be like, past tense, yeah, it's somewhere there, past tense. And it's a very simple gesture, but you can teach your students past tense, and they're like, so I have to think this way. And then it will be automatic in their head. They will do this self-monitoring, especially when it's kinesthetically connected. this is the idea of Herbert Puchte. Again, one of my favorite ideas. This is for the third person singular verbs in present simple. When our student says something like, he go to school every day, we paint a letter S here and we stick it to the wall. And then the student says, he go to school every day. And we're like, and the student sees a letter S there and corrects himself. Aha, he goes to school. And then you have it for a week, and then you take it down and just put an orange sticker on the wall where nothing is written. But students will remember that, aha, this orange sticker stands there for the wrong use of the verb in the present simple. So she plays the guitar every Monday, and if somebody says she played the guitar every Monday, we show here. Then we take it down, and in another week we take it down, and then again a student says she eat ice cream every day, and we're like showing here where this sticker used to hang, but there is nothing here anymore. And later on, students will just look at this place and self-monitor there. And they will have this spatial memory somewhere in their brain that will stay there, and they will monitor themselves automatically and autonomously. Now, thinking skills is something that is really taken as the basis for Superminds Ukrainian edition, and you can have a look at all of these great books. There is a student's book, workbook, teacher's book, which is online. There are also phonics book and super skills book. Also, there are flashcards, which are also online. They are available, and you can find all of them at our website. In addition, there is the new Superminds Ukrainian edition coming. This is Superminds Ukrainian edition for the 2nd grade, and you can already check it out on Publishing Linguist UA website. If you go online, type Publishing Linguist UA, and here will be the 1st grade, and you choose the 2nd grade, you will be able to have a look at the samples of students' book, videos, audios, and online support. More components are to come a little bit later, but as of now, you can check out our online support, which is just amazing. You can see here there is a game 1, game 2. This is just for a sample for you to look at it, but there will be more for each unit, and the access will be in the workbooks. Now, what's this? This is a game. I made a video for you. So you go there, you press start, and this is a simple game to revise grammar, to revise vocabulary, and there is also extra practice, and you can right now go and check it out to play with your students. Yeah, so this is how you play that. And especially now when there is such a need of remote learning and remote materials for that. To check new components that are on their way, the samples of these new components are on their way. Remember to sign up to our Facebook page and follow us there to learn all the news, to be the first ones to learn all the news. Yeah, this is one of the books that you can vote for if you are going to work in the 2nd grade in new Ukrainian, according to the new Ukrainian concept next year. And the election process will start in January. So you can start considering Superminds as your choice. We also have a lot of articles to support both new Ukrainian school products such as Superminds and Prepare, and you are welcome to check them out on our linguist.ua website. And since we're coming to the end of this webinar, I will ask you to type in your favorite activity or your favorite idea from this webinar using, again, slido.com. Join typing slido.com in the search, or just scan the code and here insert this code to join this activity. And I will be really thankful because it will help me to understand how which activity was the most interesting for you. Spot the difference. Okay, 2 lines. Oh, and facing each other. Okay. House made of sentences. Thank you. Okay. While you're filling this out, I will have a look at the chat in case there are some questions. A third-person singular card. Yes, that's also my favorite. So simple and so handy, as you say. Okay. If you have any questions to me, please type them in the chat as well. Like soup. Okay, I will now move on. When should we start learning letters with the first graders? Depending on what exactly you are learning. If you are learning sounds and how the words are pronounced inside of the words from the very beginning. But letters like alphabet should go at the end. If we are looking at the phonics together with Superminds, there would be phonics, and this is the phonics system of learning letters. With phonics, you learn the phonics first, like rat. Yeah, you learn the phonics, then you learn it in the context, or take it out of the context, learn it, and only then you show the letter. So this is letter A, but first you learn how it's pronounced in this particular context. Otherwise, we will have, especially with the W, we will have quite a problem. And I know that we all learned this way, and we are fine, but this is not the way these days. Yeah, we first we leave the alphabet by the end, so it's a song to sum up our knowledge of all the letters, but we learn them starting from the most widespread sounds in the context to the least widespread. So Q would be somewhere in the end. Okay, you're present. Okay. Thank you very much. But But we have to finish now. And in case I don't see more questions, I will be, oh, sorry. So, the Linguist Company is the official distributor of Cambridge University Press and Assessment materials in Ukraine. This is our address, our website.